I'm Mario Martinez Jr., CEO and founder of Ingresso, and we are the creators of flymessage.io, the free personal writing assistant and text expander application. On each episode of this podcast, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you grow your sales numbers at scale. So, get your pen and paper or iPad and keyboard and start taking notes as you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And today I bring you topics of discussion around lead nurturing. When you get that lead into your box, what the heck are you going to do with it? And how do you manage that lead to get them to meeting and or close? And I've got with me my friend and my guest, Mr. Jason Kramer. He is the founder of Cultivize. Jason, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, Mario. Happy to be here.
So do us a little favor. Tell the audience we've got salespeople, sales leaders, business owners, marketers, sales enablement professionals, all listening in. Tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about Cultivize as well. Then I got a very special question for you.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been a communicator all my life, and all of us have, right? We start off as a little baby and we cry when we want something. We learn how to talk, and it evolves as we get older. Well, I took that skill of communication up to the notch of graphic design and communicating verbally. And that's how I got started in the industry, working for agencies in Manhattan, a lot of global companies as well as regional brands. And back in 2002, I started my first company, which was a web development and marketing boutique, ran that for 16 years, and sold that business to start Cultivize just about 5 years ago. Today at Cultivize, we sit outside the realm of inbound marketing. Our focus is helping companies handle what happens when they get leads coming in their pipeline and how to manage them and how to make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Very good. And your specific background prior to this, one more time, was focused on what exactly?
So my background is in marketing communication and advertising. And so I've taken that and layered it on top of data in terms of CRM specifically, and how to use data and how to segment your data to get more out of the leads you're generating.
And this is a big problem, right? This is a huge problem that we have, especially if an organization is driving some inbound leads. What do you do with it? How do you make sure you engage with those leads? So it's interesting to be able to have this discussion and slant that's for sales leaders listening in, because I know that they're plagued with, hey, do I have a good lead or do I have a bad lead that just came in from marketing? But nonetheless, before we get into some of the deep content here, Jason, question for you. Tell us something nobody knows about you, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles.
You know, I love that question. And I am a fan of your show. I've listened before. And the two that I always struck me was the gentleman you had who was in Mumbai and almost blew up his entire camp because they put gasoline on the fire there instead of water. And then I think you had a champion horseshoe thrower on the show as well, which I thought was, great and unique. So here's mine. And I don't know if you've ever had one. My wife and I have matching skull candy tattoos of Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
All right. Wait. We're skull candy matching tattoos of Mickey and Minnie.
Right. So it's Mickey and Minnie. She's got Minnie. I got Mickey, but it's in the design of skull candy. If you know what that is, it's, think of like Day of the Dead or, Coco and that sort of design. Yeah.
All right. So the question is where's the tattoo at?
Oh, that's on the separate show. No, I'm just kidding. They're on our ankles, so that they're in a place where we're out together. Especially like during nicer weather. You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And we've had people approach us because we're just like innocently standing there, and they see the two of them, matching tattoos. Yeah.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I can't have you show it right here because we're all just here on video. You'd have to do some amazing different splits and lift the leg up in the air to be able to show that. But all right, that is the first time I've had that on the show. 250 plus episodes, and no one's ever said I've got a matching tattoo with my significant other. That is matching tattoo and of Mickey and Minnie and skull candy.
Yeah, there you go. I said it's a trifecta.
That's right. Exactly right. Well, thanks for sharing that. So, let's spend some time talking about lead nurturing and how it can contribute to building stronger relationships with buyers and or prospects. And then I want to talk through about how to actually establish meaningful connections with these prospects. So, can you talk a little bit about that, the lead nurturing process and how it builds stronger relationships with buyers?
Sure. I mean, I like to keep things simple, Mario. So at the end of the day, those listening, whether you're in sales at a senior level, at a junior level, and even the marketers as well listening to the show, it all starts with a process. And a lot of times we find that companies simply just don't have a defined process for what to do when they get a lead, right? So the habit is, okay, you're going to call that person, you can try to get a meeting, visit them if that's the type of business you have. And we're talking mostly for B2B, right? In the consumer world, you're buying something pretty quickly. There's not much of a process there. So in the B2B conversation, what we typically find is that they're hungry to get that lead, but then they kind of fumble the ball, right? They're so excited and they try to get the call, they can't get the call right away, or the person just wants some information. And then what? And then they find that there's no process to say, okay, how can I take them through our sales process? How can we nurture and educate them to inform them, right? Because the world has changed. And now it's more in the buyer's hands to be able to make that decision than it was showing presentations and slide decks and all the things we did 20 years ago. So it's really important to know, how am I going to help this person make a decision and hopefully build a rapport with them in a personal way. So when they are ready to make that decision, they're going to buy from my company and not one of our competitors.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And so establishing these connections, if you would, with prospects, how do you help sellers and or suggest sales leaders to guide their sales team on how to establish these meaningful connections?
Well, a process is only as good as if you have a tool to manage the process. And what always shocks me, Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and a few other publications all put out a study years ago saying that nearly 70% of businesses will fail at implementing their own CRM because they don't have the technical know-how, they don't have the experience, and very often they're picking the wrong technology because they think that technology is going to solve the problem. And you and I both know, and you're in software, software doesn't solve the problem all the time. You need a human element to help with that as well and understand, are we getting the right software for our needs? So the first step is, do you have a CRM? And is anybody in your team using the CRM? And is the CRM connected to both your marketing efforts and your sales efforts? That's the first step, is making sure you have that piece of technology. The second step is, and there's many steps, but just kind of give you the second one, is then looking at your data. And what does that data look like? Is the data coming in that's clean? Is it being well maintained? Is the sales team going in there and moving people through the sales process? Do you have a pipeline in your CRM? And so one thing to look for is kind of sit back and say, okay, well, where's all our information? Is our team using spreadsheets? Are things being written down on a legal pad? And that's when you start recognizing and understanding that, well, we don't really have a process. We don't have a system in place, that's going to help us do this. So without those things, the next, 10 steps are impossible to achieve if you didn't start with a strong foundation.
All right. Well, but those are kind of, the basic 101s, right? Have a CRM, and are you using it? That's kind of a given. Everybody who's listening in right now on this show, again, we have sales leaders and sales reps. Everybody's got the CRM and they think they're using it correctly. But how do you actually establish meaningful connections? Let's make the presumption that everybody has got a CRM and everybody's using the CRM inside there. What do you do when to make these, quote, meaningful connections with buyers?
Sure. So typically what we look for is, the first thing is to identify how long is the sales process. So let's say your sales process takes a year to go through, and that is common in the B2B world. We see that a lot, but usually anywhere from 3 months to a year or more. Well, okay, now that we know the sales process, we got to establish a cadence for how often are you going to touch that person during that buying cycle. So some of the things you're asking, for example, specifically, email, plain text emails are very strong if they're really short, concise. Don't start listing features and benefits of what you're selling. It's more about the value add and helping identify and recognize what their pain point is and how you can solve the pain point. Very basic, but a lot of people don't do that. The second thing is using other forms of communication beyond email. Sometimes people don't have the comfort level, but if you do, LinkedIn is great. And it's not just, again, LinkedIn automating things. And I love, Mario, if you use it, but I love LinkedIn audio. Sending somebody an audio recording on LinkedIn just to build a rapport. And maybe it's sharing something with them, or you were thinking about them, or whatever it might be. It's never asking, saying, hey, are you ready to buy? It's just, again, trying to build that connection. So I love that. Another piece on LinkedIn I really like is finding interesting things that they're posting and commenting on that, or sharing something with them that you think might be insightful. So often what we do in our process, for example, is we'll share articles that we're producing, articles we see on other publications, podcasts we've done, other forms of content that'll help educate them again, because that's really what it's all about. Think of it as like you're trying to buy a car, right? You're going to do a lot of research before you go into that dealership, because you might have already made up your mind, but you want a little bit more information. And you might go into a few more car dealerships along the way. And so what does the car dealership need to do? It needs to make you feel comfortable, right? And to help you make that decision. But what also turns you off? Getting blasted, every 3 days by the car dealership with text messages or emails about cars you're not even interested in, things out of your budget, because they're not catering their messaging and their content to you. So not only is it important to build this rapport, but it's also really important to make it personalized to fit them. Okay. And I think that's where also a lot of companies fall short, is they're just offering everything under the sun that they can do, and they're not honing in on what the main pain point was that they've identified, hopefully early on. So that's another piece of it. And then picking up the phone, I think, is really important too. We've actually have solidified a lot of business even over text messaging. I speak to a lot of people in the B2B space that they are kind of turned off by it, because they're like, well, I don't want to get a text message from, some anonymous person trying to sell me. And my response to that is, you don't text them on the first outreach. As you start building a rapport and they know who you are, it's okay sending a text every once in a while. Again, in my opinion, because let's face it, we're all busy, right? And we all get tons of emails, but we all have our phone right by us, right? And when we get a text message, we read it. We may not respond, but we read it. And so if you want to get that message delivered to somebody and you know their cell phone number, I think it's a great asset that is really going underutilized. So this is just some examples, but the reality of it, Mario, everything is so tailored and customized that we do for our clients based on the type of business they have, what they're trying to sell, how many layers there are to who they're selling to. So there's a lot of factors involved.
So I want to be clear about the types of leads that we're talking about. What you're describing is an inbound lead that is what I would consider either has become a hand raiser or somebody that marketing believes is sales qualified, meaning that they have the propensity to potentially buy, and it gets handed over to a seller. Those are the types of leads that we're talking about that you just described, correct? Yeah. So for our sales leaders listening in, many of them are using tools like SalesLoft, Outreach, Apollo, et cetera, right? Great tools that are really designed to help drive automation at scale and engagement, hopefully. And what we see a lot of people doing is the spray and pray, that is, on this engagement. And many of them are using plain text messages, right? There's plain text, but so is every other Tom, Dick, and Harry. And that's probably my biggest concern when I receive these plain text messages. Does it get in my box? Yeah, it does. It gets my box, but there's no value there. Now let's talk about that for a second, because if I have a sequence and it's been identified that I have the propensity to buy either a hand raiser or a sales qualified lead, then that individual has already been nurtured by marketing to be able to receive valuable information pieces. They've been engaging, they've been clicking, they've been looking at stuff, or perhaps they actually physically raised their hand and said, contact me. So in most cases, the sellers reach out and they want to go straight for the jugular, which is the meeting. Is that right or wrong? Go straight for the meeting. In a sales, let's take two different models. Sales qualified lead versus a hand raiser. Hand raiser says, contact me. sales qualified lead says there's a propensity that this person may be interested and or want to buy, which I think there's two potential different approaches. Do you agree with that? And if so, what are those approaches?
So I do agree there's two approaches, right? If somebody reaches out, fills out your form on the contact even page of a website and says, I'm interested, yeah, you jump on that and you book the call, right? I mean, you don't need to send them a slide deck or anything. They're ready to have the conversation. Now, the flip side to that is the cold outreach, right? You're going after people, and I think there's something that's vital that you didn't allude to, which I know we will talk about most likely, is that a lot of people are spraying out there, but they're not spraying to the right target market. I get, and I'm sure you do, and all these people that will on the show get solicited with tons of inbound stuff, especially like LinkedIn, email too. It's like, as an HR director of your company, I'm not the HR director. So like, why are you blasting me with that information? Like, of course, that's not a fit for me. So the first step is, who are you actually messaging, and are they the right people? Forget about the company, but are they the right title of the person you need to connect with? So I think a lot of people are missing that step. Let's make the assumption you've done that and you're actually reaching out to the right types of company, right size, right person. I would certainly not ask for the first meeting in the first few emails at all. I wouldn't even really give much of links of anything other than to keep that email super short. And I'm talking, 75 words max of, hey, this is kind of who we are, what we do, and where I think there might be some value. And it has to be super, super focused. So for example, and we do the cold outreach as part of our efforts, it's, hey, we want to talk to you about CRM. And specifically, these are some pain points we know our customers have. Do you identify, here's, in some emails, we put a super short case study, literally 3 sentences long, of somebody that had a situation that's common, how we've helped them. And hey, if this resonates with you, let me know. A lot of our emails that we use in the cold outreach, and believe me, we've tested this for years, there's hardly any links in there. If anything, there might be one link to one thing. A lot of times just says, hey, if this is something of interest, let us know. Obviously, that's for getting in the inbox, right? Less links, increases your chances of getting to the inbox. But then when it starts introducing the calendar, you and I both know some people like that option. A lot of times people just reply to an email too. So I think it really requires companies to test and see what's working. Typically, I would say you need at least 8 emails in the first sequence is the experience we've seen. 8 emails sent every 2 weeks to somebody, and then monitoring that. And hopefully you have a system to monitor who's engaging, who's visiting the website. So if you are doing the things you've talked about, right, your listeners, make sure you have some way to track who's going to our website from these emails, who specifically, not just are we getting 10% more clicks, et cetera, because you want to know who's engaging. Because then to your point, Mario, those are the people that are starting to raise their hand. So they haven't called you, they haven't responded yet, but they're sending the signals, we might be interested in what you're talking about.
So let's go back to your model, 8 emails, and you said across 16 weeks. Oh, wait, no. So 8 emails across 2 months, you said?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. I'm sorry. So that's at 16 weeks total for a sales engagement campaign, which is 4 months.
To a cold prospect that's like unsolicited. They're not reaching out to you. You're cold. Yeah.
So most sequences that we see happening are sitting somewhere within a 30-day period, right? They're touching them within a 30-day period. So you're saying that 30-day period that I would argue every corporate sales organization that I've ever been in that's created their own outbound sequences through Sales Loft or Outreach, they've got 30 days, maybe max 45. You're suggesting that you elongate that over the course of 4 months.
Well, even longer. I mean, that's the initial, right, is 4 months. What I find is that we all know in sales, right, and I know you've been part of a career documentary, you either want the yes or the no, but the no is sometimes just as good. So our approach is we can email them for a year, and we're not going to say the same thing over and over, but we're going to see how our emails performed in that first batch of 8 emails. We're going to tweak things, and they're going to get another batch of 8 emails once that first sequence is over. And we're constantly going to be kind of massaging and modifying that till we get the ultimate rhythm where we're getting people put in. And I can tell you, we've just remodeled this whole approach starting at the end of December, our first wave started going out. We're already seeing a percentage. I'm trying to remember the number off the top of my head, but I was looking the other day. I think it's something close to like a 35% or 40% open rate on these cold unsolicited emails and a 2 to 3% click-through rate, which is pretty good on a cold unsolicited email. And the reason behind it is we've put a lot of sort of data science, if you will, into what is the right length of email, what does the subject message have to say to hook somebody to get them into the email, and then what action do we want them to take? And so coupled with sending this email to the businesses that are a perfect fit for Cultivize really starts making things happen, and so there's a lot of moving pieces to it, but that's what we're seeing today.
Okay, so we teach less than 111 words and less, and you say 75 words, which we've seen some data points around 75 as the target inside of there. But nonetheless, with 111 words and less, including 70, that includes 75, that's a one-touch scroll maximum message, meaning on a mobile device. And I think that's really important that people hear that we're talking about less is more, and how do you bring that in? Now, on these emails, you talked about adding value inside of there. We talk a lot about adding value in every email, which includes at least one piece of content or material that leads to your solution. So we're talking about a blog, a white paper, an ebook, a webinar. But you talked about that you recommend that in many cases that you don't have links inside there to be able to get it into that inbox. On the flip side, for us, what we recommend is include one link only inside there. Now, I'd love to be able to tease out this concept of no links, because how do you create value, bring value to a buyer if you aren't leading with content? And let me explain. So as an example, in our PVC sales methodology, personalization, value, call to action, 111 words. The value piece, it might sound something like this. Let's pretend you're not on social media and I can't find anything about you. It might sound something like this. Hey, Jason, oftentimes when I reach out to sales leaders such as yourself, they have two common problems. One, they're trying to increase the number of hellos that the reps are getting, and B, build a bigger pipeline. Are these challenges that you're having right now? If so, directly here attached is an article about how to get a 60% yes rate to a meeting request with your target buyers and prospects. And then we include the link inside there. Now, that is a specific value-added piece that is leading to the website. And then we can close with one of three ways, the CTA. Is this a problem that's big enough that you'd like to spend some time talking about it? That might be one. That's asking a question to see if they want to book a meeting. Number two might be, if these are two problems that you're having, might I suggest that we schedule a 30-minute meeting? Here's a date and time, or here's my calendar link. And then a third option is since these might be two problems that you're struggling with, here are 3 dates and times that work for me at 9, 1, and 4. And if that doesn't work for you, here's my calendar link that we can schedule something. So that's how we would construct that inside there. And I struggle with, if you're not going to lead with value, then how do you bring value into the email without a link? So talk about that.
It's a great question. So the first email does have a link, right? So it establishes, who we are, linked to the website. Emails 2 and 3 are providing case study information, again, adding authenticity and the experience that Cultivize brings to solving the problem. So again, here's a client, this was their problem, this is what we help, how we solve it. So in a way, it solves the replacement for the attachment you're providing, right? It's like, here's our solution, and we're just putting the solution and directly into the email. I believe it's the 4th email has a link to my calendar. So you ask, well, how do they find information? I get tons of emails solicited to me. A lot of times it doesn't have links in it. If it's something is interesting to me, which again, very few in between it happens, I will look at the domain and I'll Google the domain and I'll get to the website, right? Because if I'm not interested, I'm going to take that extra effort. Now, the reason we can do this and not provide all that information and all those links is because the software we use to send these emails tracks not only opens and clicks, but how many web page views each person is going to. And so it automatically identifies an HQL, a high qualified lead, who isn't necessarily somebody that is saying, I want to talk to you. It's just they're engaging, right? They're engaging at a rate where we've sent them 2 emails and they've been to our website 8 times. That's a signal that, okay, they keep coming back and looking for some more information, right? So that allows us to then continue to email them, but put them kind of at the head of the list to say, this is somebody now I'm going to reach out to. So what I didn't mention is that this is the sort of entry-level part of it to start these 8 email sequences, okay? Once somebody becomes engaged and has gone to our website a certain amount of times, I usually say like 5 to 6 times, then I'll personally reach out on LinkedIn. Hey, Mari, how you doing? It's Jason over at Cultivize. I just wanted to personally introduce myself, give you my contact information again from another way. And then, sometimes I'll even drop them when they finally do connect, like an audio message via LinkedIn. And then we have this whole other sequence that runs through a different piece of software we use to start now building more personal rapport. Yes, the email's coming from Jason at Cultivize, but now here I am interacting via text message, via phone, via LinkedIn, via other platforms before we've even spoken to try to build that personal rapport. And it's done so in a sequence where it's not overwhelming, but it's done with enough touch points where we can then start picking and choosing who are the people that really want to have a conversation with us. And listen, every business is different. We're not a volume-based business. We're looking more for quality over quantity. So it's okay for us to weed out the people that are just kind of, shopping around that, can't even afford to work with us. Let's just say it that way, maybe. That we're going to spend a lot of time with and realize, okay, well, we're not even a fit for each other. It could happen, right? It's just happened to all of us. So hopefully that answers the question in terms of like our approach and the different methods we use to mitigate the fact that we don't have a ton of links, or even a few links in every email.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. So I actually have a really cool idea, and you're welcome to say no. I have a set of emails that sit inside of a folder that calls emails that are good and emails that suck, right? Emails that don't suck and emails that suck. And I've got a sequence that's open that someone's sending me a message, and it's just the reply to the reply to the reply. I'd love to open it up. And of course, anybody that's going to be listening audibly will describe it. We won't say the company name, nor will we say the individual. And for video, when you're watching this, our video designer, Charlie, is going to actually edit out the name and the email so that we can protect the integrity of a salesperson. Because this is an example. What do you think? Can I share my screen and share you something?
Sure, let's go for it.
All right, let's do a live review of what this looks like. So first on my screen, we're going to look at this. Now remember, Jason, we're not going to use the name. We're just going to call him Bob, right? Bob. All right. And we're not going to say the company name because all of this stuff will be blurred out by our designer as we go through this. All right. So we're looking inside. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Now, Bob sends me a first message on January 15th, 2024. This is at 4:34 p.m. UTC time. I have no idea what that is in Pacific Standard Time, but I'm going to assume that is that's within my time range. Now, Bob says to me, hey, we just came across Fly Message while searching for top-tier AI tech firms in the country, so I wanted to reach out to you. We just boosted Gamma AI to 1.9 million views with only $3,000 spent, hitting $1.60 cost per, what does the CPM stand for? Cost per?
First per thousand.
Okay. Now this highlights actually a very specific problem. What the heck is CPM, right? If you're targeting me, the CEO, do I know these level of details? So this is what we got to think about as a seller, right? So hitting a $1.60 CPM in 60 days with our new influencer marketing flywheel. Interested to hear how we can do this for Fly Message? All right, let's look at this one first. What do you think? First off, what
first impression, and I'm curious. The photo above caught my attention, Mario. Is that part of that, or is this a different?
No. So this is a reply to the reply.
That's okay. So it's going back. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So we're gonna focus just on this piece right here.
So first off, I think there's too much jargon to your point, right? So like Like if I'm getting it, if I don't know what Gamma AI is, like, is that his company? Is that a client they've helped? Right. So who's Gamma? Like, what does that mean to me? I don't know. Right. So that's first part of it. The second part is, what does the spend really matter? I mean, ultimately, because I don't know what you did for them. Right. So like you boosted them, but what did you do? Did you do work that took, a week or, 3 months, and what did you get for three grand?
So you're talking about what were the results?
What were the results? I mean, like like what did you do and what were the results to get there? So that's a little confusing. And then lastly, who is this guy, right? So is this just a made up person? There's no title. Like even with our emails, like there's a title there, so we know, and a company name, even there may not be a link. So I think when I see these, I always delete these right away. I don't even kind of scan them. It just says one name at the end. To me, that's like a red flag, and I just toss them aside.
Okay. All right. Good. A couple things that I'll bring out here. First off, I did like the Hey Mario, because if they follow anything I do, Personality Insights indicates that I would say Hey Mario, and I engage with people just like that. So I like the informal model there. He writes, just came across fly message. That was an instant turnoff. Wait, you just came across and you didn't do any research? Or how about a better way to say this is, I've been spending some time looking at fly message and I downloaded it.
Right.
Now, if you were a true seller that was personalizing this and taking this to drive interest, you would recognize that when you write just came across your company, that means absolutely nothing. But if you actually say to me as the CEO that you're targeting, hey, I'm a customer. Now, do you think I'm going to blow off a customer? And this is what I don't understand about salespeople. It costs you nothing to download our tool, and it takes less than 5 minutes to install it. Do you think that I would be willing to respond to somebody who says, I just downloaded Fly Message while I was looking at top-tier AI technology firms, and I love what you're doing, especially using it on LinkedIn? Would that catch my attention? Would that be super hyper-personalized, Jason?
Yeah, of course. And the funny thing is that, clearly this is an automated email, right? But if you reach out to Arian and you said, hey, I'm interested, let's talk, he'd be like, who's Fly Message? Like, he probably doesn't even know who you are, right? Because he didn't send this, the system sent it. So to your point, we can read right through it. Yeah, it's got the Hey Mario. I think, it's casual. But yeah, it comes across as like, it's just fill in the blank of information.
Exactly right. And you nailed it, right? So the first, like I'll give Bob a minute here to say, hey, at least you said, hey, Mario, and you realize my tone of voice would be, I would accept that, right? But the flip side is you just came across Fly Message. Like, bro, like, don't tell me you just came across it. That means you didn't do your research. And while researching top tier AI tech firms, come on now. You're trying to stroke my ego, but we're a pre-seed venture capital funded company. Are we really a top tier AI tech firm? Where did you see that at? And by the way, in the entire country? Like, come on now. All right. So to your point, I love what you said, though. Who the heck is Gamma AI? I have no idea what that means. And you boost them to 1.9 million views with only $3,000 spend. But what was the impact?
Right.
That's what I don't understand here. So they basically got $3,000 worth of spend to get 1.9 million views. Wait, did that actually mean that they increased the pipeline by $10 million? Did they close out any deals? Did they fill in the blank? What's the benefit, to your point? Now, he writes, interested to hear how we can do this for Fly Message. Of course, I was not. Inside of here, he left no value to me. No link, no nothing. I didn't know who they were. And to your point, he put his first name as Bob.
Right.
I don't know who Bob is, other than the fact that I see that they are an agency. Now, I'm going to leave it at that, a very generic. All right, so that was January 15th. Now, here it comes, January 17th at 4:48 UTC time. All right. Hey, Mario, comma, enter. Just following up to make sure you saw this. Let me know. All right. What do you think about that message from Bob?
What do I think about the message from Bob? I think that it's, if the first one was bad, this one's way worse.
All right. So a lot of companies, interestingly enough, a lot of organizations put things in like Mario, ? Or I'm following up to make sure you got this. Did you see it? Let me know.
Yeah.
Wait, who the heck are you?
Right.
Bob, you are at the bottom of my priority list. The bottom. So why do you think that I owe you a response? That's my response as a buyer.
Right.
Any other feedback?
No, I think you nailed it all. I don't think there would be anything differently, I would say.
Now, the only thing I would say here is it came 2 days later, literally almost 24 hours to the T, right? So it was 24 hours and it looks like 14 minutes.
Which is way too soon.
I agree with you because at this point, if you recognize the buyer, I'm the CEO of my company. It might take me 2 days just to get you your email. And now I'm irritated that you're basically blowing up my box. And all the while, there's no unsubscribe link. So they're using a sequence that doesn't have the unsubscribe, and now I'm getting more irritated. All right, let's look at the next one that came in.
By the way, Mario, I'll just interject that I've got a great pre-written response that I'll share with you. We could even, in post-production, share with your listeners that I just type in the word spam to my email, and it just puts in this whole long message, in there to just try to get people, because that's really, obviously it's against canned spam policy. You have to have an unsubscribe link in your email. It's illegal not to have one. So, so that's something that, I just have fun with these people, quite honestly, sending them back this message, but let's go ahead. So now you said you have this.
All right. So this is basically Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 5 calendar days or 3 business days, January 22nd at 4:33 p.m. UTC. So it's basically on the clock. This is what's happening. And he writes back, this is the words team listening in on the podcast. Any thoughts, Mario? ? Dying to hear from you. And he has I guess I would call this a Giphy. And it's a skeleton sitting on a bench for all of you listening audibly. A skeleton is sitting on a bench. The man is obviously dead. And it says, me waiting to hear what you thought of my first email. All right. What do you think of Bob's third email to me, Jason?
So I think Bob is clearly trying to be clever and humorous. What I'll say, it comes across to me in a very, non-funny way, right? Because it's implying, obviously, like, I've waited so long to hear from you, Mario. I actually died sitting on this bench, and I'm not even here to even talk to you anymore because I'm no longer, a human in this world we call Earth.
Because you took too long after how many days? 7 days.
Listen, I've used, funny gifs and things from time to time in the past. And, the one that I've found to be sometimes funny, and I don't find particularly the gifs work as well. I'll use like a little bug emoji. Like I didn't mean to be a pest or a bug, like in an email, something like that, just to be kind of cute. But honestly, I think all that stuff's been outplayed. It was, for the last 10, 15 years, people, were doing that a lot. And I think that's kind of gone. But we'll keep going through it. But yes, I think that's a terrible choice of language and, imagery to get you engaged.
Now, interesting. So I'll give you my perspective. I opened it and I looked at it and I snickered. I laughed at it. But then I said, after I laughed at it, right? Skeleton, he died waiting for me, right? Then I thought about exactly what you just said. Dude, Bob, you literally sent me a message 7 days ago and you now died already?
Right, in 1 week.
Right. So the sequence is way too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you think about this, if you have a minimum of 8 touch points, which I think the number is now somewhere around 12 to 15 touch points through a multi-channel phone, email, LinkedIn, video, etc., right? 12 to 15. It cannot be 1, 2, 3 emails in 7 days. That you cannot do that. And this is where I really challenge sales organizations to say, if you're calling on an executive, in this case, Bob is calling on me, an executive. Yes, it's a small business, but do you really think that I'm sitting here waiting for someone to reach out to me to talk to me about what I think is about advertising, right? I think he's talking about, can they do the advertising spend, if I'm not mistaken. No, this is all wrong. And to your point, I believe that sending me a Giphy with a dead man skeleton sitting on a park bench, me waiting to hear what you thought of my first email, I wanted to write back, your first email sucked. And if you thought that the second and the third one were better, you're totally not smart. That's what I want to spray back.
Yeah. And the other thing too is we should mention for those listening on audio, in all these emails, there's no link to any website. There's nothing there to prove credibility of the company, to add any type of value of the things you were mentioning before. So why would you respond at this point? But let's go ahead. Now I see a few days later, he emails you again.
Exactly. So January 26th, this is now, he waited for 4 business days.
4 days. Yep.
And it's same time. It's on a clock, 4:47. So everything's between 4:30 and 4:48, right?
Yep.
He writes back, "Hey, Mario, just confirming you received my last email." So each email is saying, "I want to confirm that you received my last one." Well, the last one was the dead skeleton man, and the one before that was make sure you saw the one before that, which is this first one. So this is outrageous at this point, and it's totally now you've pissed me off. Now that's what happened is because you haven't offered any value. I have no idea, based upon this first message right here, I have no idea what you do, who you help, how you help, what business problem you solve. I have no idea if you have any validation. I have no idea what the heck Gamma AI is. What are your thoughts? Would you just keep pounding away on, did you see my first? Did you see my first?
What are my thoughts about what to do with Bob?
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna write back with your spam message, right?
Bob not only gets the link in your Gmail here of block, right? But it's like report as spam and phishing. You know, that's what Bob gets. I mean, yeah. Listen, it's spray and pray. I mean, they are sending this, I'm sure, to tens of thousands of people, and if they get, maybe they'll get like a 0.25%, if that, response, right? Because there are some people that will respond, I'm sure, but very few. Right. So they're just spraying and praying and hoping for the best. The reality is it may not even be a real company, Mario. I mean, like we've seen a lot of these things where they're just, phishing, trying to, get malware to activate on a computer. So, my caution to listeners too is like, if you find something that's interesting, personally, I never click any link in an email that I've not gotten that I haven't requested. Maybe I'm just cautious, and because I'm a data guy and, tech guy, I'll always just go to the website. And if that website is not a legitimate website, I don't even bother. Even if I had some interest, I just stop right there. So, I would say, just as far as my best practice.
All right. Well, it doesn't end there.
It doesn't end? Oh, no.
Last email he sends now is on January 31st, which is 5 days later. And all it says was, for those watching, it says Mario ? Now, I want to tell you something, Jason. You don't know this because you don't necessarily memorize my email offline. But if you're looking at this email here, and again, those of you watching, I've just clicked on the email that shows the from and the reply, and on the video, this will all be blurred out for Bob. But my email will be, you can see my email, but Mario.Martinez@Vingresso. So I purposely set up a Mario.Martinez@Vingresso, because all of those tools that are out there, the data intelligence tools, they run a analysis of, what are the propensity of an email to be able to find someone's email. And of course, our company email nomenclature is Mario.Martinez, or first name dot last name. Yeah. So, but my real email for those of people that want to get a hold of me is Mario@Vingresso.
Mm-hmm.
So anything that comes into Mario.Martinez, I know that you scraped it from a sales intelligence tool, because that is not even a publicly used domain. It is actually a, what do you call it when it's masquerading? It is a...
alias?
An alias, thank you. It is an alias email that has been set up so that I can specifically identify when somebody has actually used a sales intelligence tool to be able to message me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bob has no idea about this information, of course, but all it says was Mario ? What do you think, Jason? Worth responding?
At this point, I'd love to know more about Bob. Yeah, why not? No, in all seriousness, it's really words can't even put into it. I mean, it's one of not the worst, but one of the worst emails I've seen. I mean, and they're all the same formula. I mean, there's no different, but I don't think everybody's looking at time, date, stamp, and the sequence. They're like, oh, wait, it's been 5 days, another one 5 days later. Like, they're just hitting delete. You and I know what to look for. So that's when we kind of start pulling these things apart. But yeah, that's definitely not the model you want to follow.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we went through that. Thank you for doing that live demonstration. The challenge that I want to articulate is I've got over 700 emails that suck in the folder, and I've got like 20 of emails that don't suck. Now this is probably pretty important to think about as a sales leader listening to this conversation with me and Jason. Have you inspected what it is that is in the cadences of your sellers? And have you done the litmus tests? Would I respond to this as a buying influencer?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jason, I think one of the big failures of sales leaders listening in is that they actually don't know what the content says. If I were to line up 100 CSOs and say to them, when was the last time that you read the sales sequences that are being used for cold outreach, an inbound lead, hand raiser, or a sales qualified, that you went through and read the messages and said, yeah, I'd respond to this? I think if I lined up 100 executives, I'd probably say 10% of them would have said that they read it.
Yeah, I think 10% would even be a little high, well, quite honestly. And it's unfortunate because what we've seen in all different size organizations, it's relying on other people to do the job, right? So my sales team, bringing on a salesperson because they know how to sell, they're going to write the emails, and there's no oversight to that process. So when I talk about process, obviously I didn't go into detail, but all these things are part of it, right? It's, if you're going to reach out to LinkedIn with somebody, what do you say on the LinkedIn message? Are you personalizing that LinkedIn request? Or are you just hitting, send invite? I mean, there's so many things. Leaving a voicemail. What do you say on the voicemail? Like the tonality and, teaching people to talk in front of a mirror and looking at themselves so they're smiling when they're on the call, right? There's all these things that I think a lot of sales managers, some of them do, right? Because they have the experience, they know the best practices, but a lot of them, they are either overloaded with so much responsibility, they don't have time to focus, or they don't have time to really direct their team on the best practices. And the other huge thing that, which I think is equally important, Mario, for our listeners here to know is, when was the last time you had a conversation with your marketing team as a sales manager? Are you even aware of what they're doing to drive inbound traffic and inbound leads? And are you passing back information to them to say, hey, it's great that you're giving us 100 leads a month, but guess what? 80% of these are really not qualified, because if they don't know that, they're just going to still give you garbage every month until you tell them that it's not the right type of lead. But they need to know how to fix the problem from your input, not just doing it on their own. So there's a lot of gaps, in this whole process. And the reality is it takes a lot of work, but if you do it in a methodical way and you have the approach where we can organize what the goals are, we could have a phased approach, it's all achievable. And the reality is a lot of our clients that are in this position, within typically 60 to 90 days, a lot of these problems are out the door, because it's not that it takes a whole lot of time to get it done. It's taking the discipline to identify the problem, correct it, put it into motion, and to start testing the changes you've made. And that just takes a process. And then again, I always talk process in like a repeated record, but it's all about the process. And if you don't have that process refined and somebody keeping accountability, it's never going to work. And you're always going to have this problem.
Amen to that. I'll tell you one last thing, and then we got to close this out. And that was, there was yesterday, I got a sequence that was started by a CEO of a AI startup company, an AI technology startup company. And the message was interesting, and he asked to schedule a meeting. And I said, well, maybe I'll take a meeting with a fellow CEO who is in the same space doing some AI stuff. Might be a great way to be able to bridge some connections, see what their funding path looks like versus ours, and talk about what they're doing. So I decided to accept the meeting. So I replied back and I said, yes, happy to schedule a meeting with you. Here's my calendar link. Go ahead and schedule a meeting there. And I immediately get a response back within about 30 minutes. and it says, sounds good. We'll schedule a meeting. Thanks for responding. I've copied in Ross, and in this case, Ross was the CEO who emailed me. I've copied in Ross here to help coordinate this meeting. And I thought, wait, didn't I just reply to Ross?
Right.
I'm confused. Then, within less than 20 seconds after I received that message, I get another email from, I'm just going to call him Trevor, from Trevor, who doesn't use my meeting link, but actually uses his meeting link and inputs my email information into his meeting link, and then sends me an email saying, I've scheduled a meeting for us, and only included he and I, which happened to be the sales account executive.
Right.
And so I wrote back to the one that said, I've included Ross. And I said, I'm confused, Ross. Why would you copy Ross in if I'm talking to Ross? Or did Trevor use your email and is responding? And Trevor, did you actually say that you've copied in Trevor, insinuating that it's supposed to be you again because you're supposed to be replying on his behalf?
Right.
And I said, the net of it is I will take a meeting only if the CEO is there on this call. And then I said, after I sent it, I said, I bet you $100 to myself that I got put on their email distribution list because I filled out the meeting link. And I didn't get an email yesterday, but lo and behold, while we were on this call, guess what? I got on their newsletter and I immediately unsubscribed. And so that type of thing is what sets buyers through the roof. And frankly, what I should do is cancel the whole meeting because, one, I didn't ask to be on your newsletter list. Two, I told you to use my meeting link and you chose not to. And three, you are using your CEO's email and responding on his behalf, but you did it all wrong because I figured out that it was actually going to the AE. Then you book a meeting and you exclude the CEO when he asked me, using his name, to schedule a meeting with me. So I at this point, I'm like, I'm going to cancel this meeting because this is outrageous. Like, they're just totally, but because I help salespeople and sales leaders, I'm actually going to take the meeting because then I can look at it as a sales opportunity and explain to them, here's what you did wrong. And I'm a pretty direct guy, but email is so important that you get it right. And I think so many companies are doing it wrong. And so many sales leaders have no idea what sequences and automation that their sales reps have put out there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's all about the impression of the brand, right? And the way that the brand exists in the marketplace. And especially if you're talking to a company that's, 5 to 50 million and up in revenue, you've put a lot of effort to build that business. And if now you're hiring new salespeople or even a legacy salesperson that's been there and they're in their own language representing the business, and that differs than what you might read on the website or on social media or somewhere else, it creates a lot of confusion and a big problem. And so, taking a step and looking at that, again, is it an easy fix? It's not impossible. You just have to have somebody have accountability to handle all that. And so, I think today's conversation was great, Mario. I mean, at the end of the day, as a quick recap, there's a lot that can be done, but you have to start somewhere, right? And, that's the most, I think, key thing to walk away from today is, and this is, I'll just leave with three things real quick. So one is, if you have a position to look at your budget to see what money is being spent on technology, look at that technology that is being bought. Just because it's being paid for doesn't mean it's being used. So create a quick inventory. What are we paying for? Are we actually using it? Am I, as maybe a manager, do I even access that software, right? Do I know what's going on with it? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what are your team using? Whether it be the marketing team and the sales team, where are they putting their data sets? Is everything all in one central place that's easily accessible? If data is all over the place, well, it's going to make it really difficult to make informed decisions, And then the third thing is, really trying to take some accountability and say, okay, we need to establish some type of policy in place. It doesn't have to be a formal SLA, but it has to be something where it's saying, okay, we're going to have an agreement together. We're in this together. We're in it to grow the company, to build this business. But in order to do that, we all need to know what's going on. And if you still operate in a siloed and vacuumed environment, that goal is going to be nearly impossible to reach, you know. And I think you shaking your head would agree for the people listening to audio.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. If someone wants to connect with you, Jason, what's the best way? Is it through LinkedIn, Twitter, email? Well, how do they get a hold?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Jason Lee Kramer, and as unique as my tattoo for those listening early on, Lee is spelled Leigh. So Jason Lee Kramer on LinkedIn. But you can also go to afterthelead.com. There's a lot of great information there, as well as our contact information and some giveaways and playbooks that I know your audience would find interesting.
And if you're looking for Kramer, it's Kramer with a K.
Kramer with a K, yeah.
K-R-A-M-E-R.
Think of Seinfeld, you know, and that's the association there.
Exactly. All right, last question, and that is all-time favorite movie. What is it?
That's a hard one. I mean, there's so many freaking good ones, Mario. I'm really, the first question I thought was great, and I had an answer, but this one, honestly, I think the one movie that quickly comes to mind that I watch over and over and find value in entertaining factors of it is The Big Lebowski. It's just a movie that is so well written, so well played. And actually, I just recently watched it with my 14-year-old son who had never seen it before. And, that movie's been out forever, but it was just as good seeing it for the, 30th time as it was the first time. So that would be my vote for today.
There you have it, everyone. Well, hey, Jason, it's great having you on the show. Thank you so much. And for those of you listening in right now, hey, don't turn that down quite yet. Listen to this very important message now. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download Fly Message, that's flymsg.io, for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.